Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I'm going to hit this again because this guy hit it again. Ripple lawyer, no secondary sale of an asset has ever been found to be a security in U.S. history. That's why XRP is a commodity. That's why we've all been here for so long, is that we know that we know that this is the case. We know that the thing itself is not a security. The oranges were not a security. The judge cannot, the judge, if the judge has the guts to do the right thing and not try to put this off and send it to a jury trial, at a minimum, this judge has got to, the law is that XRP itself is not a security, and that the oranges, and that XRP in the secondary market is not securities. Everything else, they can go a bunch of different ways. Well, that's particular transaction back then was a security and all. They can do all that, and she probably will. But those two things are the fact jack. It just is what it is, and that's why I think you see John Deaton so confident. Now, in this, they're putting a picture of Caroline Pham. Now, at times, we've been hard on Caroline Pham because we heard that Operation Choke Point 2.0 also involved the CFTC. I can only hope that the CFTC was just doing that against their own will and that she was. So, and then just a reminder against that backdrop that linked to my sponsor, Ripple has transformed the way we move, manage, and tokenize value globally. Invest in Ripple, the fintech company providing real-world utility. Link to is the place you can go and get Ripple equity. The link is in the top of the description of this video. It's for accredited investors only. You can go check with them and see if you are or aren't. Uphold had tweeted this out yesterday. Uphold never delisted XRP. We've always been there for the XRP community. True story. John Deaton says between January 2021 and January 2023, I bet XRP represents a healthy percentage of trading fees earned at Uphold. Very smart business decision to not suspend trading and wait until the decision comes down by the court. That seems like a pretty reasonable thing to me. Nothing has been officially declared. XRP in the secondary market has not been declared not to be a security. Not only that, Uphold is not an exchange. A lot of people forget that. Uphold has liquidity providers. Uphold is, you're literally not actually trading on Uphold. I think that's part of the reason they were comfortable with that as well. But look, that's the irony of everybody in the whole crypto industry. There's nobody, there's fraudsters. Those people I set those aside. That's different. But most of the people in crypto want to do the right thing. But you can't do the right thing if the regulators won't even acknowledge what's right and what's wrong when you're asking them. That's crazy. That's what's crazy about all this. Now, let me tell you something that's not crazy is Naveen Gupta from Ripple. Here he is.
So if I'm if I'm an outside commentator, we should stop building these corresponding banking networks entirely.
And it's already happening, some bit of it, right? But of course, what I would say is,
is it just because the remittance companies make so much more money doing the corresponding banking networks?
I think I would say two things, right? So one, I would say because there is not regulatory clarity, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in all parts of the world. RippleNet, for example, the ODL solution can't be launched in a number of jurisdictions because there's no regulatory clarity, right? Okay. So today, if
So to achieve that full connectivity,
absolutely,
they need to have
they need to have the full portfolio of this thing. And then the second thing that I would say is that all innovations take time. So there are, of course, adopters. And now it's at critical mass where it's moving very, very fast. But also at the same time, adoption itself takes time, right? So if you and me, after a few years, having a discussion to say, hey, what is the state right now? I would be surprised that there is any institution that is not taking advantage of the blockchain technology that is available to essentially significantly create efficiency versus where they are today.
Okay.
There you go. That guy's sharp. Now, this is something that's important. To my knowledge, since we got into crypto, to my knowledge, there are only like 2, maybe a handful more, not many, companies that are actually using digital assets for a real world use case. The 2 that I know of are Ripple and Stellar.
One of the things I always say is that
Circle.
payments that's not super sexy in blockchain and in crypto. Everybody loves to talk about those 23% returns you can get in all these different lending businesses or all these other things. But the truth is, when you talk about these use cases that are actually impacting real businesses, real humans all over the world, you can do, not only can you do bill pay, but think about like getting your wages in USDC and being able to cash some of that out in your local fiat, wherever you are in the world. This is actually happening today because of the service that MoneyGram developed. So it's really exciting for us, and it's first of its kind and pretty remarkable. And someday everybody's going to really wake up and go, oh, wait a minute, this is pretty sexy. It's just going to take some time.
All right. So that's she's the CEO of Stellar. Now, I had to point out that both of these guys are correct. This Predator guy, he says Coinbase's chief legal officer, who has a .eth name, is out there spreading misinformation. The average Ethereum transaction fee costs about $6 and has been significantly higher than Bitcoin's for about the last 2 years, because he's saying that it was 75 cents per transaction. Well, I said, actually, you're both correct. XRP is and has always been superior to Ethereum and Bitcoin in transaction costs, speed, and everything else. That's what they don't want to talk about. Speaking of, I like this. What's not said in this tweet is that Ethereum, through ETHgate, through all the coordinated FUD against XRP for years now, coordinated everything against XRP, Bitcoin and Ethereum have been able to grow in value at times because of that. I mean, XRP would have been on top of both of them if none of this had happened. And he's making the point that Ethereum had gone up 883%. And then he's talking about cycle 4. And what he's not saying is that we literally could be coming into a situation now where all of the bad stuff that has been tried against XRP and Ripple is set aside, and XRP gets to have its turn with truth. And the truth is, where does that value go when all of the enemies have shot all of their bullets at you and you get clear blue skies? Well, he says December 2023 $10, and then he says 2025 3 figures, 2 years equals how many percent increase? He's talking about thousands of percent. 2024 to 2026 will be fun. I agree with that. I also think this is hilarious. Michael Saylor, this guy's either going to go into the Hall of Fame or he is going to go into the Hall of Shame. There's no middle ground here. Saylor's MicroStrategy brings Bitcoin holdings up to $140,000 worth, $4 billion after the latest purchase. Now, this is very important right here. I think that Ashley Prosper right here may have done something even bigger than the Hinman emails. What she did is a Freedom of Information Act request with the SEC to find out if there was any communications between the SEC and JP Morgan about Ripple and or XRP. And she got a reply back saying the SEC says they've received search results and are reviewing them. There's apparently a large number of records requiring confidential treatment. I'll bet there is. That could literally be, I don't know, there is some big truck or something outside of my window, so we're going to power through it. You'll be okay. And then this tweet was from this morning. That's a garbage truck. SEC Ripple's lawsuit influenced by JP Morgan, FOA request. This literally could blow the lid off of everything sky high, folks. I mean, literally could blow the lid sky high. Now, I'm going to make a point here. First thing I want to show you is this. So what's going on here in the U.S.? You got the U.S. is running all the businesses out of the United States. You got Binance being gone after. Bloomberg, Dubai, UAE requests Binance to provide more information on ownership structure, governance, auditing. In other words, looks like he's trying to head to a place like that. Well, I think Caitlin Long makes a very good point here. Listen to this.
Have an impact and walk some of this back, because you cannot stop the march of technology. And what will end up happening is that if the regulators are trying to force everything to slow down and to go back to the analog world where you have to go into a bank branch to be able to move your money, then that will accelerate the move to crypto and other payment rails that are outside of the system. They're going to get at what they actually fear, which actually happens so often when people make decisions on the basis of fear. You get what you feared.
Exactly. I agree with that. Now look, talk about fear. Look at this. This is something that doesn't make any sense to me, and I think there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than we even realize. And I'll show you why. Because if I were the leader of, let's say, the United States, or you were the leader, what you would do when billions of lives are at stake, because here's what's on the when we talk about BRICS, petrodollar, the U.S. dollar is the world reserve currency. What's on the line is World War III. That's what we're all talking about. So if you're a real leader of a country, what you would do is you would go and you would sit down face to face with all of the major parties involved, all the people that have nukes. You'd sit down with the Russian president and the Chinese and everybody else, and you would sit down and you'd say, look, you are just looking out for your people just like I am. You don't want nukes going off in your country, and we don't either. You want peace, we want peace. You'd sit down and have that conversation, and you'd say, look, we know we can't have the world reserve currency status forever. Nobody does. But we've got to come to some kind of compromise to go into this peacefully, and we've got this new digital currency thing over here that we think could make this a trustless situation where we don't have to trust each other. That's what you would do. So the question I keep, when I'm looking at all this unfold, we're given this appearance that the U.S. is over here and they're just not going to talk to Russia or China. It's just us versus them. Us versus Saudi Arabia. That doesn't make any sense to me. Meanwhile, you got Vladimir Putin over there saying this.
I would like to emphasize that Russia is open for a constructive partnership with all the countries without any exceptions. We do not want to isolate ourselves from anyone. We don't have any prejudices. We do not have any hostile intentions towards anyone. And we hope that our partners will adhere to the principles of equality and mutual consideration for interest.
Right. And it's not a coincidence that he's got a gold backdrop there either, by the way. But the point I want to make, now listen to this. This former president of what country? I don't know what flag that is. Forgive me. Listen to what he says.
Many countries are saying, in order to avoid this consequence of the imposition of sanctions by the United States on the basis that you are using their currency, in order to avoid the consequences of sanctions that arise
South
from
Africa,
that,
I think.
let's walk away from the dollar. And hence there's a global discussion taking place about that, and some of it is bilateral. When Russia trades with China, there's no reason why they must.
So anyway, you see the point. But my point is that I don't believe I got a blower outside. I don't believe, you can hear it now, can't you? He's literally right there. Sorry you had to sit through that, but at least I don't have to blow the yard, right? Okay, so my point in saying all this is, I don't believe for 2 freaking minutes that that there is not more going on than what we're seeing. I believe we are in the midst of one huge operation of some kind. I don't know what it is, but I believe that there's too many things that don't make sense, and I can prove a lot of what I'm saying, and here's how you prove it. And never forget, folks, everything you're watching go on with BRICS and the countries wanting to stop using the dollar was publicly war-gamed in 2019 at Harvard University by the same people that are running the U.S. now. I've always wondered if they were war-gaming it then publicly, what had they been doing privately behind the scenes for possibly decades? There's a lot more going on, full video below. This right here, folks, goes firmly, and I do mean firmly, in the All the World is a Stage file. This is one Gary Gensler at the Digital Currency War Games.
So while I respect this, the Secretary of Treasury says we should harden SWIFT, I frankly don't think that's going to address the real policy, and we're losing the tools. Sorry to say this, Secretary Carter. We're losing the tools. If we keep using SWIFT for secondary sanctions, and on this,
I've been hearing that for 15 years.
But what the
We've
difference?
gotten a lot of good use out of them in the meantime.
Absolutely, but I think the
I'm
runway
sorry.
is shortening. I think it's just shortening, and we've seen this right here in this circumstance that North Korea could have evaded sanctions, as the Secretary of Treasury said, just because they can move things across the border. But this new competition to SWIFT is real, so I concur that we should back away from secondary sanctions. And we also have to realize we have to stiffen up other tools, because SWIFT, we're in the waning days of this geopolitical tool. Secondly, as the currency director said,
Czarina, excuse me.
Currency director said, is we have been leapfrogged by others, by digital currency, by digital Chinese currency. Why? Because, frankly, our central bank has been slow. And there's an appointment coming in January of 22. The president's got to decide whether to change over who's leading the Federal Reserve, whether we need some new leadership there that can move us both domestically and internationally so that we can really be competing actively. That our U.S. currency system, it's under the Secretary of Treasury, but the Federal Reserve runs our payment system. And I think we need to move that Federal Reserve into the modern era. Okay. So those would be my recommendations.
And who's at the Federal Reserve? Michael Barr, who was an advisor or board of directors at Ripple, I can't remember which one. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button. Tell your friends and family. This goes in the All the World's a Stage file. And sorry about the